Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to a rain-soaked Rochester, New York for episode 135 of NerdPod Generations. As always, I'm one of your illustrious hosts, Steve Taylor, along with the lovely Al Jutsum. Hello, sir.
Hello, friends and enemies.
Dude.
What's going on, dude?
It's
been a time.
We've had this water issue by our driveway where the water builds up and we would get a nice big puddle on our driveway. It's gotten so bad because of the amount of rain we have. The entire driveway's covered in water. So I just spent $300 on stuff to put in a French drain to drain the water away from the...
Wow.
So I have to do that shit on Wednesday, which let me tell you, I'm not looking forward to that. I got to dig a 50-foot trench that's 18 inches deep. And I have the tubing and all the stuff and the stones, and I got to do all that shit. But it's like, it's gotten so bad that our driveway, which is already a hunk of crap, is just going to crumble and fall apart.
Yeah. The rains this year have been crazy.
Dude.
There's a full-on duck pond over here that just shows up every 2 weeks. That's not usually there.
Yeah. And then we're going to get 2 days of sun, they say, and then it's going to rain again in the middle of the week. It's like, dude.
It's been raining, and not like light rain.
No,
like heavy rain.
Well, this morning it wasn't supposed to rain at all, and I went to get mulch at Lowe's, and I'm pulling this cart with 20 bags of mulch on it, and it's raining on my head. And the woman's like, oh, do you know they're loading it for you off to the side? I'm like, no, because there's no signs, and you didn't tell me until now. So let me go load my mulch, you mother... Yeah. So.
Hey, just go down to the Penfield Town Hall. They got all the mulch you want.
Yeah, we used to get it from there, but that mulch is like hot trash.
It's not good, but it'll get done.
We got one. I'm surprised there's not dead bodies in it. Like, it's so just garbage.
My parents' entire backyard is built out of that mulch.
So. No, I mean, our front yard was for years, but now it's like, I got 20 bags and it was $40. So that's not bad.
That's not too bad.
It's I think it was 5 for 10.
Yeah.
And they're massive bags.
Yeah.
But anyways, folks, on to NerdPod Generations. So if this is your first time listening to us, episode 135, please go back and listen to our back catalog. And if you go listen to us, make sure you like and subscribe to our podcast. And then go to youtube.com where you can see little snippets from episodes. And once again, you don't really see our faces. You just see our lovely new logo. It's like 40-minute bite-sized pieces of our show that you can listen to. And make sure you subscribe to that as well.
It's
and
not
let us know what you think.
It's not all middle-aged dads talking about gardening. That's not usually what we do on this show.
No. And the funny thing is my mother-in-law was mentioning that she might start listening to the show, and I wanted to warn her, saying we do use colorful language.
Yeah.
And I will never stop using colorful language because language is important to me. But I should have left with that caveat. I didn't. So maybe I'll have to warn her next time.
Yeah.
In case she has not listened to it yet. But anyways, folks, we have a big show today. And as always, we like to start off our show with what we've been watching, playing, reading. I would like to start if that's okay.
Go right ahead.
Quick little side note. Usually I make a bigger deal of this. We did watch Ant-Man, my son and I. It's Ant-Man. He laughed at it. It's dumb.
It's
I don't think you have to say anything else.
It's
the first
Ant-Man
fine. Is a throwaway.
It's a movie that could have been great.
Yeah.
And instead, it is just fine.
It ended up being, for us, the movie we had to watch so that we could watch Civil War. That's pretty much what it was, too.
Yeah,
I know. You have so much love. So
there's a dark line on the horizon, and it's coming.
Oh, I know, Homecoming. I know, we're not going to talk about that. So the thing I wanted to bring up, my family and I went and saw Kung Fu Panda 4 today, which was really good.
Yeah.
It was very good. I kind of had to laugh. They like, the fifth person on IMDb is Mr. Beast. He plays a character that just says, "Gauche." That's it. He said one word. And he was fifth on the freaking call sheet. And they had Seth Rogen on the call sheet to reprise his role as the Mantis. All he does is grunt in a post-credit scene. And I'm like, Jesus, dude, you're really stretching for these faces on this. Yeah.
Wow.
But the one thing I wanted to bring up was we went to Apple Cinemas.
Yeah.
I have a lot of thoughts on this.
Because you hadn't gone before.
Had not gone before. This is the new cinema that's open here in Rochester, New York.
That I raved about last week.
It's open in a bunch of locations in other parts of the country. I have a lot of feelings. Okay, first off, it is beautiful, the theater. When you walk in, it's gorgeous. Very minimalist when you walk in. I don't know how that place is going to be open for a year.
Why?
I'll tell you why. It's just 35 seats in our theater. I think is what it was, 30 or 35 seats. Half of them were full. Mm-hmm. So it's like, to me, I think this type of situation, this type of business, you need to have a lot of seats filled. So on a Sunday at noon to have half the seats filled in a kid movie, that one was a little, I was like, okay, that's a little weird. Me being a former restaurateur and having that ear for listening to employees, man, they're having staffing issues.
Oh, really?
And I think the big problem is, and the thing that I wish they would do, now mind you, we got food. Food was good.
Food's good.
Overall experience cost us $150 for a family of 4 to go.
Yeah.
That to me I think is going to be the death nail for them.
Well, it's a restaurant and a show.
It is, but it's like you could see and that's the problem though. And the problem is right now restaurants are having such a difficult time staffing, getting good staff in. Like I could tell there were issues in the kitchen. When we were leaving, there were people complaining up front because they got half their orders and the manager who was on had no idea where the other half was. And it's just like, so you're dealing with two issues. You're dealing with the typical movie issues, but then you're dealing with restaurant issues and the staffing issues that come with that. So what I kind of wish they would have done was more of like what the Little Theater in downtown Rochester did, where they put in a bar, they put in a coffee shop with the bar, and then they just have baked goods. And it's like, that way you're cutting out a lot of the issues you would have with a full service restaurant. You're still getting that feeling of, okay, this is a different experience than a typical movie theater, because you can go in and sit at the bar, or you can go get a cappuccino and you can talk and there's tables and that I totally get.
Yeah.
I just think the idea of the restaurant is what's going to be its ruin.
See, I'm really glad it's a restaurant, honestly, because I love dine-in theaters. It's one of the greatest joys in my life is going to a movie and actually having a really good meal while I'm there and having the option to have drinks and other things. So I'm really happy it's a full-service dine-in. I can get that that's an issue, but I also look at there's a lot of places that have been very successful doing this model. So I know it's two things and you have to do them both well.
But where were those locations at?
Yonkers.
Still, though, New York City.
Well, Yonkers. It's not like people are coming up from Manhattan. They were so successful in Yonkers that there's now one in Yonkers, in Brooklyn, and in downtown.
And Staten Island.
And Staten Island. When we moved to New York, there was one in Yonkers. And that was it. And in the intervening 10 years, they have brought in 3 additional locations. And they all do incredibly good business.
See, but that once again, I think the thing is, I know this market when it comes to food service very well. And I don't see it being the concept that would work necessarily, especially in Pittsburgh. Like maybe if it was in the city, somewhere like...
See, I don't think in the city
Park Avenue. No, not like cities, like one of the artsy areas of the city. You know what I mean? It's just... This is the kind of issue I ran into with when I worked at the restaurant in Victor, that they had locations in, I think it was Syracuse. It was either Syracuse or Buffalo. They put what would be a good concept in a certain area in the wrong spot, and it did not work. Because we kept trying to tell them, listen, this doesn't work in this area, and it doesn't work with the size that you're dealing with. And once again, my big concern is not necessarily the dine-in movie thing. I just know the issues that restaurants in this area are having now with staffing, with quality control, with all that shit. And just the fact that this has been open for a little bit, and I'm sitting there listening to this manager saying, I contacted my boss and they never got back to me. And it's like, I can see the cracks already forming. And it's like, dude, if that's already happening, and then I'm in a theater that's half full on a rainy Sunday, that just doesn't necessarily make me feel warm and fuzzy.
No, I get that.
And like I said, I wish, and my wife and I even said this, like we enjoyed ourselves. And I don't want anyone to think I didn't enjoy it. We enjoyed ourselves as a family.
Yeah.
But at the price point, for a family at least, it's not worth it. You know what I mean? Like before we even went to the theater, we noticed that Kung Fu Panda 4 just came out digitally where you could buy the movie for $30.
Yeah.
So it's like we could have bought the movie and owned it for $30 and had all that stuff at home. We spent $150 because of the experience.
That's what you're buying, though.
That's what you're buying, this experience. But like for us as a family, maybe 3 times a year we'll do that.
Yeah.
I just don't know if it's going to be as viable in this area.
See, I don't think that they're catered to families. You look at the movies that are available that they have showing, And even if you only have half full theaters, they have so many theaters that they have that are showing things that aren't being shown anywhere else. The number of Bollywood movies that they have showing
That's
there.
the thing that I'm excited about, though.
Yeah.
And I hope they stick around because of that fact. Because, like, there's that Devara, the one I want to see coming out, which I hope they show there.
Yeah.
And we could go do, like, a watch
and review. That'd be great.
But I agree with you. It's not catered to children. So the thing that confused me, and this is once again from that restaurant brain, the kids' meals were not spectacular. And it's like, of all times that you could have just put a Crustable with a bag of chips in a box and said, here's a kid's meal, probably would sell crazy. And that's one less thing you have to cook.
I guess, but if I had that experience where I had kids and I came and that was what they got, I'd be pissed. Like, you want the kids to still have, the meals might not be great, but you don't want them to have something that they could just have at home. That just doubles down on your point
But here's
before.
the thing, though. Once you have kids and you have that finicky, I won't eat anything type of deal, and like, we bought chicken fingers and fries for Gemma, she ate the fries. She never even touched the chicken fingers.
And she ate the fries.
But I know that if there was an Uncrustable with chips or even with fries, they would both have gotten that and eaten that for lunch. Ethan ate popcorn because he didn't like anything on the... Like, if it's not catered to children, craft their menu at least to make it more price effective when people do bring their kids to the theater.
I can appreciate that. I just think
because
that...
I think it was like $10 for the chicken finger and fries.
That's a lot.
You know, the chicken fingers weren't great. I gotta say, the hamburger was good. I enjoyed the hamburger.
I had the hamburger when I went.
Yeah,
it's
it was
a really good burger.
I enjoyed the burger.
Yeah,
and I do like the ordering at
I think the ordering system is good.
It's great. I'm more concerned than disappointed. I am disappointed. The bathroom was fucking disgusting.
I did not go in the bathroom.
It smelled. It was sticky. And the one thing my grandfather always told me when I was growing up, he goes, if you ever go to a restaurant, go to the bathroom first. If the bathroom's dirty, you don't want to eat there. I'm not holding them against that with this, but I think that goes into the staffing thing, because you could see that there was like a mop bucket outside of it, but nobody had touched it in the entire time we were in that movie. And I'm like, I don't know if they've really... I don't know if this is a franchise, and whoever bought the franchise really thought through every part of it, which is why you see a lot of restaurants fail. A lot of people will go into it thinking, oh, I can run this. They have no idea what goes into running with something like that, and then they fail because they're like, oh, crap, I didn't know this, and I didn't know this. And, you know, I'm assuming people working there, I don't know if they'll be getting $15 an hour plus tips.
I mean, that's minimum wage.
But if you're getting tipped, I think the tipped wage now is, I think it might be $10, might be under, I can't remember.
Okay.
But you're going to have a really hard time retaining if the clientele is going to be sporadic. You know what I mean? Nowadays, you'll see some restaurants that don't do well consistently. The service is going to be very sporadic because you're not going to get people to stay. Because you go in one day, you make $200. You go in the next day, you make $20. And I've seen that. I've done that. I've been there. And that's where my concern is kind of. And that's where I'm a little wishing they would have. And like I said, I'm not saying don't do food.
Well, and it's also
think of doing food in a way that's not as intricate.
Yeah. Well, like the thing for me is there's a wait staff, but there's not like a proper wait staff. So when we sent in tips, you send in tips to a general pot. Which is, I assume, divided up at the end of the night.
There's got to be a tip pool.
I don't know the ins and outs of how the theater itself works, but I am glad that it's here, and I do like it quite a bit. I hope it is successful. I think you do, too.
Oh, I do. But once again,
You're pessimistic about their chances.
Because here's the thing. I think they need people like us when we went to spend the $150.
Oh, that's definitely true.
Next time we go with our kids, we've already said we are going to put candy, juice boxes, and all that shit in my wife's purse because we can't afford $150 to go every time. And it's like, that is where it's going to become a problem, I think, because I don't think we're going to be alone with that. Because the price point's so high. I tried to separate when we got in the car. I said, if we went to a movie and then went to Red Robin, we would have paid the same amount of money. But I think the thing is, it's looked at as two separate experiences, and so you see more value in it.
See, I find that the combination increases the value because I can have the Red Robin meal and enjoy myself while also watching a movie that I want to see, and I don't have the loudness and pressure of a restaurant and everything else going on. It's kind of a more intimate thing where you're there, you still have the great restaurant meal, but you're there watching a movie that you also really wanted to see. So one of the things I've been so sick of these last few years is going to Regal or Lowe's and trying to find anything to eat that doesn't suck. Yeah. And it's always I always just end up getting popcorn because there's no other options. There are options on the menu, but they're never actually available. And so it's like, I really like going to a theater where I can sit down and order a really nice meal and watch a movie that I've been wanting to see. And in one case, at least, it enhances the other usually. So it's like the meal enhances the movie and the movie enhances the meal. And you can, on the other side of that too. But even, I remember, this is a different movie theater, so it's a little bit of a different experience. But I remember going to Alamo Drafthouse and seeing Hail Caesar. And me and Kelly were so jacked for Hail Caesar. We were so excited. And we went and we saw a matinee and we got brunch and it was great. The movie wasn't. The rest of it was great. And the movie wasn't terrible. It just wasn't what we wanted. But we still had this really nice experience to go with it. So it's like, okay, even if the movie's not great, you still have this really nice restaurant experience to go with it. And I think if they do some stuff that the Alamo does where they have second run movies or like flashback nights.
That they would have to do.
I think that helps a lot.
And a lot of my complaints that I have are because I'm seeing it from a parent's view, not from a non-parent. Because when you go there with the kids and the food comes out and the movie has started, you're not watching the movie. You're saying, all right, do you have enough napkins? Do you have this? Do you have... And you're not paying attention to your movie.
See, I think that's a fully different thing. This isn't necessarily made for families, or at least families with young kids.
I don't think the concept is made for families, but I think they're going to end up being reliant on families because they need to bring in more people.
So what they do then is what they did with Alamo. So at Alamo, what they would do is have specific family shows where there isn't the usual rules about not talking to the theater or making noise. Everybody knows that you're just going to go in. I think they call it like Saturday morning something or something. And it's just family hour. Basically, they just have the entire programming for that one theater. I think the big difference between Alamo Yonkers and this theater is the amount of theater space they have.
There's a lot.
Yonkers had 6 to 8 theaters, something like that.
This
has
9?
like 15.
Is it 15?
It's something like, there were a lot of different theaters in there. Over 10. I know there were at least over 10.
How many seats were there per?
This is the thing, is I don't think that they're worried about having big audiences. I think that they are thinking we're going to have good designated seats and also offer good food. With the idea being that the seats are cheap enough that you don't mind going in and ordering a food because that's part of the whole experience anyway.
See, I think you were onto something, though, of them having to do theme nights. Or not theme nights, or flashback nights. Yeah. Making it a super experience to go, like do a triple feature of the first 3 Indiana Jones movies.
We did that. We watched the first 3 Indiana Jones movies at the Alamo. And so we had popcorn at the first one, we had a full meal at the second one, then we had dessert at the third one.
Yeah.
And we went and saw Ninja Turtles 1 and Secret of the Ooze back to back in 2017, right as It came out. So we watched those 2 and then watched It, and we did all of those in one day. Those are some of my favorite movie experiences. We went and saw the Cornetto trilogy that way. So like that, I think, is a big key. Is offering things that you can't necessarily just go out and see, but still offering the big movies of the day.
And I would recommend to them adjusting their menu. Because, like, I know this is going to sound bushy and douchey, but, like, when we go to see a Bollywood movie, I would like to have a glass of wine and maybe, like, a small cheese platter. You know what I mean? Yeah. Something where it's like, okay, this isn't a... Because, like you said, having that Red Robin experience. If I go to a movie and it's a dine-in thing like that, I don't necessarily, like I said, I enjoyed the hamburger. It's not really kind of what I want when I watch a movie. Like, if I watch a movie at home, usually I'm not eating, like, a full meal.
Oh, see, I am.
I'm
That's
eating,
my
like...
whole go-to.
I'll have, like, a cheese and crackers, or I'll have, you know something that might be nicer, but it's not this massive, like, greasy thing. Like,
see, like, we're just coming at this from 2 polar differences, because that to me sounds like fucking heaven. Is you have a nice decadent meal, a meal that you wouldn't normally have, and you just enjoy it. You know, like a pulled pork sandwich, and you're just like, oh, fuck yeah, this is amazing.
And I think that is the difference. Is I've never wanted those two experiences combined.
Oh, I love.
And I think that's the
get your
difference.
chocolate in my peanut butter.
But well, now here's the thing. How many more people think like me or think like you will be how if that place succeeds?
I think it might be a generational thing. I think that 10 or so years between us, because you also figure people my age aren't having kids as much. They're more worried about insular
but I
nature.
waited until I was 40. Almost.
But this is what I'm saying is that
I waited a long goddamn before I had kids.
Well, me too. We're still not there yet.
Yeah.
But like what I'm saying is, I think that there is a growing audience for that, and I think that when movie buffs, especially younger movie buffs, have that option as an experience, they like experiences. That's what they go out and do. That's what they like to spend their money on. They don't want, I'm very atypical of a lot of millennials because I love stuff. And so my house is just full of stuff. None of it's expensive. None of it's important to anybody but me. But man, I love it. And so I think that a lot of millennials have the opposite feeling where they're like, no, give me the experience. Give me something that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. I'll spend a lot more money on something that is going to give me a great experience and not have the stuff in my life rather than, I mean, this is why so many industries are going down according to anybody over 60. We don't like stuff anymore. We want experiences, and I think that this is emblematic of that.
It is. I just, like I said, I was optimistic, but the ending, because I overheard the employees at the end. Ethan and I were sitting on one of the couches out there waiting for my wife and daughter in the bathroom, and that's where I overheard things. And that's where the pessimism, because I've always had kind of a sixth sense where I've left a restaurant that ends up closing 6 months before they close. Because I'm like, I see the cracks.
Yeah.
And that's what concerned me. Because like right away when I heard that the upper management were not returning texts for issues, it's like, once again, I don't necessarily blame the concept. It's just, I don't know if whoever's running this concept is quite doing it properly.
Well, I get that because Yonkers was super tight about that. They were very well staffed. The entire Alamo chain is very well staffed and very well trained, and everybody knows their job and how to do it.
And I think it's now mind you, I've never been to Alamo or any of these other places, but as of what I've heard and seen about them, they are not corporate feeling places.
No.
This place felt corporate to me.
I don't know that this felt corporate to me.
Just the way people talked, looked, acted, it seemed very sanitary.
But I've never heard of Apple Theaters. That's not like some big chain. Like if
seems
Regal
like it's a
came
growing
in,
chain, though.
But if Regal came in and they were trying to establish a dine-in theater option, then it's like, yeah, that's a fucking established chain.
But it wasn't necessarily like that I've heard of it. It's just the look and feel of it had a very sanitary kind of corporate feel to it, to where if like difference between going to a Starbucks or going to Java's.
Yeah.
Totally different feeling when you walk in. This felt more like a Starbucks than it did a Java's, where I'm feeling like an Alamo Draft House would feel more like a Java's. Where you're like, okay, everyone, like the people that work there are just passionate about the work, the movies, the experience and all that, where everyone that I interacted with there just felt like this is a job. I'm just making money. I could give two shits about the movie. And it's not like they were mean, or it's just I didn't feel that passion.
Yeah.
Which this concept to me feels like you would need that. Like you and I, if we worked there, we'd be like, oh my God, I got your food. How do you like the movie? It's just like we would be like so into it. And everyone's just like, hey.
Yeah.
Guy even brought us wrong food. And he's like, he was going to walk away when I was just like, did we order a hot dog? I'm like, no. And he was going to walk away. I'm like, dude, this is for B, not C. He's like, grabbed it and just walked. And I was like,
I mean, they're still getting on their feet. They only just opened.
They are. But it's like, typically when a place is just getting on their feet, they're over enthusiastic about making sure everything goes right. It never goes right. But they're over enthusiastic on making sure it goes right. And I did not feel a second of enthusiasm from anyone that I came in contact with.
Yeah.
Including the manager at first. They're like, is your first time here? We're like, yeah. And they're like, well, that's that, blah, blah, blah. Like they were like, the person even kind of rolled their eyes and put their head. I'm like, I'm here with my two kids. We're going to spend $150 here. Maybe. Hey guys, how you doing? What's going on? None of that. And I was kind of like...
That's a staffing issue. That has nothing to do with anything else.
It is, but it's like, if that's what the running of the place is, that's where I'm concerned. Like, it's a Sunday. Sunday should be all hands on deck. Families, people, everything should be coming into that place. Man, everyone should be on point. Like, maybe on a Wednesday afternoon, totally get it, if everyone's a little more relaxed. Saturday and Sunday in a movie theater is your fucking bread and butter.
See, I come from a standpoint of I totally get it. I've had that day at work where you're just like, fuck this. You know, like I'm going to do what I need to do to get through the day, but I'm not going to try extra hard.
But that's the thing. I've had to have this discussion with people for years. I've gone through deaths, divorces, anything you can name. You would never know it because customer service, you're an actor. You are completely an actor. It doesn't matter if somebody just ran into your car. You go in like you just bought a Ferrari. Yeah, you know what I mean. You got to fake it to make it is the best way to say it. Yeah. And you see the places that are the most successful is you feel welcomed. Yeah. I didn't necessarily feel welcome.
I get that. I can understand. You know what I mean?
And it's like, if you're just going to AMC and buying a ticket and buying popcorn, they don't give a fuck if you're there. Yeah. But if you're going there for an experience and you're going to drop $150, you better have some enthusiasm. You know what I mean? You better feel, especially if you see kids. That's anyone that's in service industry. If you see children, butter up the kids and the parents will fucking love you. See, that is the key.
Again, we're coming at this from polar opposites. The less my waiter talks to me, the happier I am, dude. No, but
that's the thing. I'm coming from the business side of it because I've been in the service business for so long that I'm looking at what they need to do to succeed, not what I want from them.
See, what I want from them is what they're doing. So to me, exactly. I'm like, this is going to work.
That won't be successful in this market. That's what I'm trying to say. If you are trying to get families to come back, or even if just parents, like, because my wife and I, once again, we could go back, just the two of us, but we kind of had a little bit of a turned off experience that I don't know if we had a date night, that would be our first choice. To where the more you suck up to the family when they're all there, the better opportunity you have for not only the parents to tell their single friends or people without kids, but the parents to come back without the kids, maybe get a couple extra drinks. You know what I mean? Yeah. You got to think about every aspect of it.
I get that, but also, like, again, that's just not how I approach a movie theater experience. That's not what I want.
This isn't a movie theater experience anymore.
But it is. It's still fundamentally a movie theater experience where you eat really good meals.
But that's the thing. It's when you're paying this type of money, it's a different. It's not a restaurant. It's not a movie theater. It's a different animal.
I'm going to tell you straight up. At one point, me and Kelly went to the Alamo Draft House and we saw Amazing Spider-Man 2. And I was super jazzed about this movie. I love this movie. I still have a very fond feeling for this movie, even though it's not perfect. Kelly's card got rejected, and it was right at the height of the movie. And the guy came over and had a little like, oh, I'm sorry, we got to figure out this card thing. That pissed me off. And that was something that needed to happen. I wanted it to happen after the movie was over, when the credits were rolling. I wanted them to come over and explain what had happened. If a waiter wanted to talk to me at any point when I'm going in or out of the theater, if that kind of shit happened when I'm trying to watch a movie, that pisses me right off. When I went to that theater and saw Lilo and Stitch as a kid with my family, nobody came up to us and talked about anything. And if they had, we would have been like, fuck off. We don't want to talk to you.
This is what I mean, that it's a different animal. It's a different experience because they have to get that payment, because if the movie ends and you bolt, they need to make sure they get that money, because now it's not just the movie that you bought a ticket for, it's the food that you also got during the movie.
But I think it's like how Wegmans puts the milk at the back of the store, right? So you walk through and you get stuff because you have to walk all the way through the store to get to the most important things, right? All the bread and everything is at the back of the store. Once you're in there, the theory is that you're going to spend money anyway. It's not like an eating experience going out and having like being waited on. The wait staff needs to be as minimal as possible. You don't want to interact with the wait staff at all. But if you go to the bar and you want to order a drink and talk to the bartender, that's its own thing. But when I'm in that theater, I don't want to talk to anybody.
No, but you got to think, though, the typical experience in a theater is you buy your ticket, you buy your popcorn, you buy your drinks ahead of time, you pay for it ahead of time, money's taken care of, and then you go into the movie. So if you leave during the movie or after the movie, doesn't matter because everything's paid for.
But you paid for it digitally here.
But if the money doesn't go through and you're halfway through the movie and they realize that, they have to get that. Like for us, it was $100 for the food.
Yeah.
If for some reason halfway through that money, my card for some reason got declined, they would need to get that money, because if the movie ends and we just left,
Your card would have been declined before you ordered any of the food, dude.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is, just the experience you're saying is, obviously something happened, and during the movie they needed to get that
Right,
payment.
but that was fully different than how the theater is set up here.
It is, but it's like, I'm
If
just
anything,
going
that
off
was
of
my
what-
one complaint about Yonkers, was that there was too much waiter interaction.
Yeah.
And it was just at inconvenient times. In fact, the first time when we were going to go and see Monkey Man, I came down and I was like, how much better would it be if you could go to Yonkers and open a tab like you did at the bar, where you just hand over your card and you're like, hey, this is my card, this is my seat number, this is what I'm going to be ordering from, put everything on this card. And this is a step even beyond that, where you can't even order the food until your payment is accepted. So, like, to me, it's even easier, because now it's like, I don't have to interact with people at all. This is the future that people are horrified by, of like tablets at Panera. But like, to an introvert who doesn't like talking to people and just wants to go and have the experience for me has nothing to do with any of the people around. As long as they don't poison me, I don't fucking care about any of them. The experience for me is the food and the movie and the person I'm with. I could not give two shits less. And in fact, whenever people at any establishment come up to me and want to talk to me, I'm like, I really want you to go away, dude. Like, I just cannot emphasize enough how little I want to talk to you right now.
See, and I think I see the divide we're having here. It's, you're seeing the experience, I'm seeing the moving parts behind the experience. And I know what goes into the moving parts behind the experience, and that's where my concern is. It's like, that's what changes this from just a movie to a bigger, more complicated monster. Because it's not just, this is my experience, this is what I want. It's like, okay, but I know what goes into making that experience what it is now in its current state, and it's a much different fucking thing. And it's not only is it more complicated, but there's far more moving pieces. There's far more issues, because not only are you going to have somebody, like, what if the burger's cooked wrong, if the food's not good? And then you're like, okay, I got to get up from my movie now. The guy with the apple juice, his kid didn't get apple juice because every kid's meal is supposed to get a drink. He had to get up, leave the movie, go tell them that. And it's like, that changes how things are. And you know there's going to be people, if they order a cocktail, gets delivered during the movie, if it tastes like shit, they're not just going to sit there. They're going to have to leave the movie experience to go figure out what the drink is.
See, what they need to do is what Yonkers did to figure this out. What Alamo does is, because it's still a weighted staff, they have little notes. That's how you put your order in, is you write what you want, you lay it down, and then the wait staff comes by, picks it up, and takes your order and goes. If you need anything, you write a note. So if someone's being noisy, or something's been lost, or you didn't get something, or this isn't your card, you write a note, you put it there, the wait staff comes by, picks it up, checks what it is, and replies in kind. If this system had like a system whereby, I don't want to encourage people to go on their phones while they're in a movie, but if you could go to the app and request something, and it's the exact same as when you're ordering food and you say, hey, I never got blank, or you could even just open up your order and just say missing blank, blank, blank. And then the wait staff can get that as a message and be like, oh, that never came, or something happened. And whether it's a lie or something else, we can figure that out later. But like, I think that would also still resolve the problem, is just have a way where you don't have to get up and go, where you can just discreetly be like, hey, I didn't get my beer. When is that going to come?
But that rolls into, do they have enough staffing that is going to get the messages?
But I think that's its own issue.
That
on
is,
its own.
but it's a big issue.
It's a big issue, but I think it's corollary to the entire thing, where it's like, if the conceit and build of it should work. If it doesn't work, it's because the people running the machine don't work. But I think the machine itself is a great machine.
But, and I was thinking about this more when you've been talking about Yonkers and all that. I think why those places are successful is because they're in more, I know Yonkers is not New York City, but it's in New York City. It's close enough. You are going to have a clientele who is going to, be younger, like you said, not have kids, more people who are used to going to art events and going to theater. And it's just a much different experience than being in Pittsburgh, New York, where it's going to be an older group. It's going to be far more families live in this area. I don't know if it's in the right spot for what you're saying, and I agree with you. I think it is not only a generational thing, but you're trying to get that younger, non-child crowd.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's the right location for that. It's kind of what I'm saying. It's like you threw it in the middle of rich, old families.
Yeah.
And it's like, I still think a concept similar to what the Little Theater did would work better there, which is still very similar.
Yeah.
It just doesn't necessarily go quite as far as, you're getting all your stuff ahead of time. You're not ordering at your seat. You are getting different foods and you're getting liquor, you're getting coffees and all that, but you're not having that service kind of thing. So I think if they could find a happy medium, that might be good. I'm just very concerned with what I saw. Once again, I enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
I like the concept. I like the idea. I just don't know about its viability in its location, in its current state.
This is one of the rare moments, Friends and Enemies, where me and Steve actually have like a lively debate for 40 minutes where we are on polar opposite sides of an issue.
But here's the thing is we're not really on opposites in the broad scope of it.
Oh, yeah. No, we agree on concepts.
We're just coming at it from two different sides.
Two different views.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's, like I said, you're coming from the experience view. I'm coming from the business side view of it. And I think we end up having the same agreement on, like I said, I like the idea.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. I just don't see the viability necessarily.
Yeah. See, to me, the thing is that Rochester only has, 4 major theaters?
Yeah.
The Little, I wouldn't even count as a major theater.
I know AMC is trying to roll out, better foods. I do like the idea of, and I know you could do it on Fandango. When you get your tickets, you can pre-order your food.
I've seen that. I've tried it. It didn't work when I used it.
It didn't work either for us.
Yeah.
But if they can figure that out, so for an AMC, if you have a nicer menu, but hey, I want this sandwich and this, I'm coming for this movie. If you can have it ready 5 minutes before the movie starts, and then you just go pick it up.
See, my thing is that then you get into, I'm going to start eating my burger because Nicole Kidman won't leave the fucking screen. She won't get off the fucking screen, and I can't wait any longer. God damn it. I wanted to wait and enjoy my burger while I was watching the fucking movie.
Did you notice the Nicole Kidman thing was shorter the last time, though?
I think they edited it a little bit down.
I think they're starting to edit it out.
I hate it. Get it out of here. The Regal one is worse because the acting and the haircuts are far worse than that one. They're so bad. But this is intolerable.
Yes.
I say this to you every time we go. You already have my money.
Yeah.
You can't get any more from me today. And in fact, this makes me want to give you less of my money.
Yeah.
So get it the fuck out of here. I already sat through all your commercials and all the trailers and all the notes and all the things. And we thank you for coming. And we thank you for coming. And now Nicole Kidman is going to come out and thank you. Fuck off.
See,
let me watch the goddamn movie.
Not counting the Nicole Kidman part. I knew this discussion would go here, and that's why I saved it for the show.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, as soon as I left that theater, I'm like, I'm saving this topic. This is going to be a good topic.
Well, this is great because I had almost nothing for Watch, Play, Read.
Which is good because we got a lot to talk about.
I was going to say, I had the scraps of Watch, Play, Read. I was like, I've been playing Spider-Man, and that's been really fun, and you can watch me play it and complain about the parrying system, which is one of the big notes that I've had so far. The story's pretty good. The way that they've intricated Harry Osborn as Venom is very interesting. I like it.
Interesting.
It's really well done. It reminds me a lot of the Ultimate Universe. The Kraven storyline with cancer is very close to comics, so that's fun. They have Chameleon and Mysterio and Sandman. There's a lot of fun stuff in this game. It's not perfect, but it is fun, and it does have that genuine feeling that a lot of comic books have where I'm just sitting there being like, Peter, you just gotta do this one fucking thing, dude. If you just did this one fucking thing, it would solve so many of your fucking problems. Anyway, I do enjoy it. I still think I like the first one a little bit more, but that also has a nostalgia quotient to it, so it's not a truly fair fight. I was going to mention Dropout, my beloved Dropout, because I still love Dropout. They've had a lot of really good.
I was going to say, you haven't talked about it in a little while.
Yeah, they've had Game Changer has come back, and it has been a banger of a season. And Fantasy High Junior Year is excellent. Nice. It's so funny and so good, and Brendan Lee Mulligan is such a great host. And I'm so in love with everything Dropout. They have a lot of new shows coming out, and so far the ones that they've introduced have all been hilarious and awesome. They're going to have stand-up shows from some of the people that work for them. So they're going to do like Netflix-style stand-up shows.
Awesome.
Fucking love it. I'm so jacked for it. I can't wait.
I
was going to talk about trailers, but there wasn't even trailers.
No.
Like I wanted there to be like a nice trailer hit to go down. But like there's some stuff. There was a lot of horror movies that came out. There's one with James McAvoy.
Yeah,
Don't Speak.
Yeah, that one looks interesting.
Or Say No Evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that looked interesting. There's a new Sean Bean movie. There's a movie called Dark Matter with Joel Edgerton that looked interesting, where it's like one of those, he gets abducted and when he gets out, no one recognizes him and he knows everybody but nobody knows him. But it looks like it's even further than that, where it's like parallel realities. So it looks pretty interesting. I might see that. I'm gonna only say one thing about Joker. The trailer for Joker that came out, Joker 2. When you swing a baseball bat, you want to swing through the hips, right? Keep it straight through the hips, through the knees, generate power. If you're going to swing really hard, you need to make sure you're not going to tear out your back muscles. I have a feeling they're going to be walking around a little stiff because they swung really hard and really missed. And we're going to see how that goes.
I don't think you can base it all on that first trailer.
I don't know. It looks like they fully blew everything.
Because we came from the first movie. Like, I far appreciated and liked that movie a lot more than you did.
I hated that movie.
You hated it, and I loved it. So
if you've seen King of Comedy and Taxi Driver, you've seen Joker.
Yes.
But that's not okay. That's not okay.
That's absolutely fine.
You can't parade it around like some great piece when it's two movies that you've just slapped together.
We're going to talk about that with Argylle later. I'll tell you that much now.
God damn it. Harley Quinn is the one that falls. She doesn't tempt Joker to become more jokery. That's not the whole point. And she's a fucking doctor. She might be a nurse here or an inmate, but she's not a doctor. What the fuck is this?
I'm interested.
I'm not.
I know you're not.
This looks like bullshit.
As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, I can't.
I don't even care about Joker as a character. I hate the Joker as a character.
You do?
I think he's reductive and stupid. And he's just, he's the Fight Club of Batman characters, where it's just like angsty 14-year-old boys are like, oh, fuck yeah, Joker. Anarchy, anarchy. And then they go downstairs and sip their milk and listen to their songs that were generated by multi-million-dollar companies.
The reason why I always loved the Joker was because you think about it, my first two Jokers were Jack Nicholson and Mark Hamill.
Which were both better Jokers than Joaquin Phoenix.
So that's the thing, though. It's like, to me, I just love the character because that's my introduction.
Heath Ledger is still the best Joker that there will ever be because he's genuinely frightening. And I don't know how we can go any further than that. Then you had Jared Leto was terrible, and now you have Joaquin Phoenix, who is just like, oh, poor little baby Joker who has a bad wee-wee.
Well, I'm curious to...
His wee-wee don't work. He don't get hard. This is your God, is all I'm saying. Is every 14-year-old, this is your God.
I'm wondering what they're going to do with the next iteration of whatever DCU is going to do. And I got to throw out real quick, because you just brought up Jared Leto's Joker. If it's going the way the pictures show, what the hell are they thinking about with The Bride of Frankenstein having Christian Bale with like tattoos on him?
I didn't see the tattoos. I saw the brain scars.
There's a brain scar, but then he has a tattoo like on his chest, and like people are like, "What the fuck is that?" Like,
it's made out of bodies,
but it's like you don't need to do that. That's kind of what everyone said with the Joker thing with Jared Leto. It's like,
maybe he has the sternum of a sailor.
Could be, but it's just, I don't know. It was just like, it's only a picture.
That is so not even close to a concern.
No, it's not close. And it's not close, but I wanted to bring it up because you mentioned.
Yeah.
Because the biggest thing with that iteration of the Joker is like, what the fuck's with the tattoos and the gold teeth? That's not the character. It's not anything. Yeah. So, you see that first picture of Christian Bale and he's got a tattoo as Frankenstein. You're like, oh, what the fuck, dude?
This doesn't bother me.
But I don't know, like, I'm wondering, what made me curious is when does that movie supposedly take place? Because it's like...
I mean, even if it still takes place in the 1800s, people had tattoos in the 1800s in Europe.
I don't think it was nearly...
I'm just saying, all you need is a sailor or a traveler or something.
We'll have to see.
And you have a tattoo. It's not the most inconceivable thing. It's interesting.
Christian Bale as Frankenstein.
Yeah,
I'm
Maggie
on board.
Gyllenhaal as the Bride of Frankenstein.
I'm totally
Looks
on board.
interesting. Yeah,
absolutely.
Better than Angelina Jolie as the Bride of Frankenstein.
I don't even want to talk about that. Or even
Johnny Depp as the Invisible Man.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff.
But De Niro as Frankenstein, that was kind of rough. I didn't mind it. I loved. Why can't I think of his name?
Kenneth Branagh.
Branagh.
That's right. He directed that.
He
one. Yes.
he directed it, but he played Victor Frankenstein.
Yeah.
I thought he did great, but then even Helen Bonham Carter as the Bride was awesome. But then De Niro, as much as I love De Niro, I just never bought it.
Hey, they could remake it now and it would be perfect. It's called The Irishman. It's a proof
Yeah,
of
so
concept.
it's like DH.
it's a perfect proof of concept.
Hey, he's got kids. He's young enough. All right, we got to move on. We got to move on. So we are going to talk about the first 2 episodes of Fallout. We were gonna try to do the full series, but goddamn, these episodes were long. I could only make it through 2.
Yes,
I know you've made it through 4. So
I have.
I don't want to know about those 2, but
I was going to spoil them, but okay.
So far, this is easily the best live action depiction of a video game.
Yeah,
by far.
Yeah.
That first episode, the beginning of that first episode.
It feels like Fallout. It really does.
Feels like Fallout. It was so well done.
Yeah.
Seeing Walter Goggins and his daughter.
Yeah.
And he's an aged TV star or movie star, and he's doing kids' birthday parties now. But like seeing the slow motion of her like putting her thumb up, I was like, dude, this is so good.
Yeah. And
so
just like,
good.
I don't know, because I don't know all Fallout's history.
Okay.
I know enough to get by. But like, I don't know if that's a thing where like the whole hold your thumb up is part of the canon or not. But I love the idea of taking that iconic Fallout thumbs up of the
and using that
of
as
the Pip-Boy and having that be one of those iconic first shots of the whole thing. I like this a lot. It's very intense.
It's
very intense. There have been a few moments here and there where I've seen a little bit of like the CGI is not great here at times.
Yeah, you can tell it's a made-for-TV at certain points.
So, and there's a lot of the stuff with Maximus that I'm like, is this going anywhere?
I don't really give a shit about Maximus.
And so, like, the Lucy McLean stuff, who apparently she's not John McClane's descendant, but also is Lucy McLean.
Ella Purnell.
Yeah.
Dude.
She does a great job.
And not only because this game mainly, and I just started playing Fallout 4 again, which I had started when it first came out, and I fell off quickly. But they're doing a next gen update on it in a couple weeks, so I thought I'd start it again. This is definitely a Fallout 3.
I was about to say this is the plot of Fallout 3.
This is
I know enough to know that this is the plot of Fallout 3.
And it's just because Fallout 4, you're not leaving a vault that has dwellers in it. You were like abducted and frozen, and you come out of a vault. But, like, just the way she acts and the way all of the people in the vault act. Dude.
Yeah.
Right out of the fucking video game.
No, it's great. It's amazing.
And her optimism and all. It's just so good.
And the way that her dad gets kidnapped. It's, like, straight out of Fallout 3. It's the beginning of Fallout 3.
So good. Walter Goggins.
Yes. Walton Goggins he's very fascinating in this.
Yeah.
I really like, he is the character that, without giving anything away, every time I see any more of his backstory, I'm like, I need to fucking know more. Yeah. What the fuck is going on with this guy? And not just because he's a ghoul and I don't know how the fuck the ghoul stuff works in this world, but like, there's a lot of interesting character pathos things where I'm like, and how did we get here? What happened? What happened exactly that we got here? I will say Norm, I don't like. Norm is the brother of Lucy.
Yeah.
And I can't pin his age for the life of me. He looks like he's in his 40s. He's very short. He seems like maybe he's supposed to be in his 20s.
Yeah, because the actor's 30.
I can't pin an age on this guy. He doesn't look like a child, but they act like he's a child. So I can't tell. Is he in his 20s? Is he just getting into his 20s? Is he in his 30s and he's just a little bit, behind where everybody else is because he doesn't care and that's his whole character arc? I need a little bit of a little extra help with that, of just like, I'm distracted by it.
Yeah.
And, him and Chet, I'm like, this is interesting. We're going to see where this goes. But I do like Lucy and Ella Purnell in particular are the saving grace of this whole thing. Her
Absolutely.
And the dog that we meet is also great. And I never want anything bad to happen to that dog, which of course means that many bad things will happen to that dog.
And that's like kind of part of Fallout 4 because of Fallout 4 you meet that dog.
Yeah.
And it's like, they're kind of mixing it. I like that.
Yeah, I like that too.
Yeah.
And that they're kind of taking the best parts of each game, where I'm sure one of the Fallouts took place in LA. The ones that I know were Vegas and Washington, D.C. and Boston, were the ones that I remember. And then the newest one, 76, took place in West Virginia.
Yeah.
But I'm sure one of the early Fallout games probably took place in LA. That would make sense. And I just really like the look and feel of the show. It's so authentic to the game. Right down to when I'm trying to describe it to my in-laws last night when we were having dinner, I have to be like, okay, well, where do I start? Because I have to establish that this has a lot of 50s feel and nostalgia, but also that it's post-apocalyptic, but also that it has all these other little remnants scattered throughout it. So it's like, where do I begin? Because it's like, it's not just that it's the 50s. It's that nuclear fission worked in the 50s. And then they had like a few years of growth based off of that. And then they had the nuclear fallout. And then you fast forward 200 years.
And they don't, at least the episodes I haven't seen, they haven't got into it. But I think they're gonna have to get into, like, if you start Fallout 4, they mentioned that after the bombs were dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima, the U.S. government took nuclear power and technology, and that's what gave us like robots and all that futuristic stuff.
Exactly. That's why everything is made out of metal, but it's more futuristic than anything that they would have had. So that's like one of the things that you have to explain. Like, yeah, so it's the 50s, but nuclear fission worked out.
Yeah.
And so it's like all that tech that the 50s loved that never could be, it's all real.
Yes.
And it's there's just so many things that you have to be like, okay, so in order to understand anything of what's going on, you need to understand this and this. And that's kind of the thing with the ghoul is I thought I knew how ghouls worked, where I thought that they were just overly exposed to radiation. It was just a mutation. But now I'm like, I don't know, because he was buried in the ground.
Well, and the thing is, I saw an interview with him, and they had asked him this question, and he said if you watch his performance, it's kind of an underlying thing, but his character is worried about becoming a feral ghoul.
Oh, it's not an underlying thing. They get into it.
Oh, they do get into it later episodes. Okay, but yeah, it's like, and he's like, even in the early episodes, you could tell he's like a little nervous. Like it could happen, and he'll lose his fucking mind.
Yeah, exactly.
It did throw me off. Betty Pearson, who plays one of the elders of the vault, is Blind Al from Deadpool.
That's what I knew her from.
And so I'm watching, because I just watched Deadpool 2 again.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's fucking Blind Al.
That's so funny, because the entire time I was like, I know it's not Nichelle Nichols.
No.
Because she had died by the time they went into production on this.
Who
are you?
Fucking Blind Al, man. I'm dying as I'm watching. I'm like, and she was awesome as the elder. And I'm like, dude, that opening part where Moldover and the
rebel, the
not Ravagers,
I mean, they're basically Ravagers.
Yeah, when they
the feral humans,
when they break in and start tearing shit up, that was a fucking intense opening.
That was an intense opening, because like the entire time you're sitting there like, what's gonna happen?
Yeah,
something's wrong. Something feels very, very wrong.
That's what they're
scavengers. And I'm just sitting there like, Dale Cooper, do you know what's going on?
Yeah.
Because something's going on.
But like when he gets up, after they have their post-wedding nuptial sex, and he's drinking the water, and she's looking at him, and she's like, I know
something
fucking
weird
and
is
I'm
happening
happy
here.
that they did show her like training.
Yeah.
And so it wasn't out of the blue that she kicked his ass and fucking like broke that thing on his face. It's like, oh yeah, she totally can do that.
She can take care of herself.
Yeah. So I'm happy they showed that first part.
That was a nice little easy in of like, here's Lucy. This is literally everything you need to know about her. Yes. And this is why she's being given this great position in the vault.
And what's great about that from the narrative side of it is that is like your character creator, where they're showing intellect, stamina, and they're showing all the things you have to decide about your character, but they just showed you that of her, and I was like, dude, that's genius.
Yeah. And I really like the look of the vault in general. Like, it's enough to get the vault doors right, but the whole look of everything in the vault and the jumpsuits and the feel, all of it just feels so authentic to Fallout. Where like even the stuff that I might not be canon because I don't know, that like there's no Master Chief taking off his helmet here, I guess is the best way to put it. Where you're watching it and you're waiting for something stupid to happen, and it doesn't, because it's an authentically well-made show that is interested in the world itself. It's not I look at Halo as kind of like the Elon Musk buying Twitter of shows. you have this whole property that everybody's been waiting for so long, and you finally got your hands on it, and the first thing you do is ruin it.
And you fuck it up.
What was the point?
What
was the fucking point, man? But Fallout doesn't have that problem.
Yeah.
Even simple stuff like the projector that they have is so fascinating to me to look at. And seeing Kyle MacLachlan, being kind of a badass, I really enjoyed.
But I like that turn.
Yeah.
Because he just seems like this, like...
He's just this dad. He's just this friendly dad.
The 50s dad, the Mr. Cleaver. And then he turns into...
Yeah, he drowns a guy in pickles.
Yeah, fucking drowns him in pickles. It's like, holy shit, dude. That was a turn.
He comes up with the shovel. I'm like, get him, Dale Cooper. Yeah. You get him. You knock him out.
So good.
I really do enjoy it. I think that the Maximus stuff slows the show down for me.
It does.
And that's frustrating because I really like all the other elements. Even the Michael Emerson stuff, I like. It's really just the Maximus stuff that really puts this big just wall down on everything that's happening, where it's like in the first episode it's fine because it's you have this big chunk of time with Lucy, and then you have this big chunk of time with Max, and then they start intercutting between the two. But like as the show goes on and you spend more time with Max, I'm like, this dude fucking sucks.
Yeah.
I don't like him. And like it's not like you're not supposed to like him, you're supposed to be cheering for him, but I'm just like, you fucking suck, dude.
It kind of, and I agree with you, this is the only like negative I would have, is it kind of reminds me of the John Boyega in Star Wars, where it's like you introduce this character, you get us to want to like him, and then you don't really fucking do anything with him.
Yeah.
When then Ray, who kind of was the second, like, I mean, mind you, Lucy is the primary character from the get-go, but it's like, okay,
Ray is like the
this
third
is the only
we
character
meet.
you give a shit about.
Yeah.
Kind of like Ray was in Star Wars,
Yeah.
where you're like, I don't really give a fuck about John Boyega because you just threw him as... His storylines don't really matter.
His storylines don't line up. They don't come from anywhere. They don't seem to mean anything.
Yeah.
The whole Brotherhood of Steel thing is interesting, but not developed well. So, like, you'll have the whole rigmarole and all of the ceremony and everything that they put into almost this religious kind of style of, like, they are Knights Templars, how they approach it. And then in episode 2, when we meet the bear, all that is thrown right out the window. Yep. And I'm just like, but wait a minute, what the fuck? That was the only part of this that I found interesting. So now all of these guys are asshole hypocrites too. I knew that was probably the case, but thanks for confirming it. I guess I won't get my hopes up.
And like, if you think about it, and first off, completely caught off guard when Michael Rappaport was underneath the armor for that first one.
I was like, is that him?
It was fucking him. I was like,
him.
Damn it. I don't necessarily like the Brotherhood of Steel parts because technically that's kind of like a side quest.
Yeah.
And it just happens to be this like guild type thing. Like it happens in a lot of Bethesda games that you could join the guild. It's not really a major part of the story. So why that's like the second half of this story you're trying to tell.
Yeah.
I don't quite get that.
And it's just like, without giving anything away, the further down that road we get, the more decisions that they make, where I'm just like, oh, and now I have to deal with this too?
Yeah.
And you're just like, come on, man. Like, this could have been cool and interesting, and instead it's, the 13-year-old boy in Iron Man 3 gets the armor.
Yeah.
Basically that.
Yeah.
And you're just
much.
like, okay, all right. And is this guy good at anything? Doesn't seem like he's good at anything. He sabotages his friend to get their position. And every time anything happens, he just kind of is sitting there shocked and scared, and then at the last moment makes a decision. But that's every single time with this guy, and I'm like, come on, man.
I agree. So, I mean, overall, I like it a lot.
I like it a lot. I want them to tune it up a little bit as we watch it. I'm very curious about a lot of stuff, and without giving away any of the backstory stuff is really fascinating.
Oh, it's amazing.
And I want them to get, I every time I see a clip, I'm like, give me more of that. I need more of it. Give me more. That was why I kept on watching. That's why I watched 3 episodes in one night, was because I just wanted more of that.
And it's like, why
backstory.
couldn't you have taken out Maximus and the Brotherhood storyline and just had more like flashbacks of what got us, or even showing like early days in the shelters? I think that would have been a little more interesting.
There was a better way to do this where the Brotherhood of Steel can still be a reference point, so you can still do merch and put the armor in the trailers and all these other things. But I think that you could have also done this a little cleaner and a little better without
if this turns out to just be like a love interest thing between
and
him and Lucy.
It really feels like it.
It feels like it, and that pisses me off. It's like you don't need to have a fucking love interest. It's like she doesn't even know what love is. She thinks you just marry somebody to reproduce.
Yeah.
That's fucking love. Like, she doesn't even know. So it's like, why do you got to give her, like, she sees any guy that looks halfway decent and she's like, oh, hey.
Yeah. Her only romantic...
What's your sperm count?
Yeah. Her only romantic partners have been her cousin.
Yeah.
And one scavenger.
Dude, that interaction with her and her cousin, too, was the best. She goes, having
having fun with cousins.
Or fun sexual experiences with cousins is
experimenting with cousins.
Yeah. That's fucking awesome.
The fight scene in the second episode, I did want to touch on this before we go on, where I do really like that fight scene and the kind of introduction of Michael Emerson and the dog, where the dog is more the character than Michael Emerson is, because he's literally dead by the end of the episode. He becomes a MacGuffin, or I guess more his head becomes a MacGuffin.
It becomes like Futurama, the heads in the
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so, but like, I really like that fight that they all have in Town Square in Philly. I thought that was really well done. And the production design of Philly as its own thing was also excellent. I really, really love that. And like, you still have some weird things when she's wandering down and she gives the guy water and he's like, you could stay here and we could have sex. Yeah. And that scene just went on a little too long. I agree. Of like, this is going nowhere. This is nothing. This doesn't mean anything to the plot.
And that guy seemed like, I couldn't quite place that guy, but that one also seemed like somebody I should know. Like, I'm looking at him like, man, I think I know that guy.
Yeah, you might know him if he's wearing pants.
Yeah.
That was weird. You can't recognize a guy without pants on.
That was a very weird.
Yeah, it was a weird choice. And, like, it was just one of those funny comedic choices that went on a little too long.
I agree.
It wasn't funny enough for how much time and effort we put into it. But I do really like this show, and the production design of the show I think is the biggest key to why I like the show. The acting from Ella Purnell and Walton Goggins is fantastic. It's absolutely fantastic.
Walton Goggins is great.
But like the production design and the captivating nature of the world, they just get me so deeply, or just grabs me and pulls me in. And I just want to keep on watching more. Even after we decided that we weren't going to cover the entire show, I had a moment where I was like, well, I guess I don't need to keep watching it, but I kind of want to. But I'll save it because I want to have it more fresh in my mind when we're talking about it next time. But I am really enjoying this show a lot. Even the parts that annoy me, where, you have irritating actors or irritating storylines or things that you don't really care about. Even those things aren't that big a deal.
But it's like, I had to throw this in there. How random was it that McLetty Williamson, a.k.a. Bubba Gump,
was he in there?
He was the one that digs up Walter Goggins.
Really? That was him?
That was him.
I did not recognize him.
Yes.
I did not recognize him.
I'm watching. I'm like, is that fucking Bubba Gump? And then he dies right away. Like, he buries them. He's like, oh. Yeah. That was quick.
Yeah.
Completely threw me off.
That whole scene was so fascinating because, like, that was the scene where I was like, I thought I knew how ghouls worked.
Yeah,
and now I don't know.
I think I need to look more into the lore of Fallout. Yeah, like, I thought I knew Fallout because I played all of 3 and I played Fallout Shelter.
I thought I knew how this worked, and now I'm not sure.
I'm kind of curious now.
And so now I'm wondering, is this a Master Chief's helmet situation where you changed just one little thing?
It could be. It could be.
Maybe.
So we will talk about this more next week, and I don't know if we'll get to all the remaining 6 episodes next week, but we will touch on it more.
Continue for the next week at least to talk about Fallout.
So now we got to talk about the big movie that just got released on streaming, which is Argylle.
Argylle.
The Matthew
Vaughn of Kick-Ass and Kingsman fame, starring Bryce Dallas Howard, Sam Rockwell, kind of Henry Cavill,
which
a little bit of Dua Lipa. Some of Ariana DeBose is kind of sprinkled in there.
Same with John
Cena.
I gotta say, Henry Cavill was in it more than they played off originally.
Yeah.
Because he's in a lot of like scenes where she's talking to herself and like has these flash scenes. So he actually is in it a lot, even though it's not necessarily him.
He's not truly the lead of the movie.
No, not even close.
Because the lead can't disappear for entire swaths of the movie.
So I have a love-hate relationship with this movie.
I kind of had a nothing relationship with this movie where I liked it enough, but Kelly came down and she was like, how's the movie? And I was like, it's a movie. Yeah. That was kind of my entire feeling throughout the entire thing.
Like the first half, I enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah.
And I love Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell's out there with Walter Goggins this episode of their gifts to this world.
Him and Bryan Cranston. Throw Cranston on that
Oh,
list.
Cranston too, yeah. He was freaking awesome.
And I like Bryce Dallas Howard in this role. I like her progression as a character.
Until the second half.
Until she changes her hair. When she changes her hair, I was like, I don't even recognize you as a human being anymore.
And it's not just that. It's the second half of this movie, 100% is a ripoff of A Long Kiss Goodnight. I don't know if you've seen that movie.
I have not.
Great movie. Also starring Samuel L. Jackson, who it's one of his favorite characters. It is his favorite character he's ever played. Gina Davis plays a spy who goes on a mission, loses her memory, becomes a housewife, and then gets thrown back into the spy world where she has to get her memory back. And she not only gets her memory back, she's red hair throughout the movie. When she gets her memory back, she has a short blonde hair.
And this is exactly it. Has to be a reference. It has to be a reference.
It's a duplicate.
How could it not be?
But here's the problem I have. Gina Davis pulls off the transition amazingly well, and you're like, I totally buy that she's kicking all these people's asses. 1,000% I buy it.
Yeah.
Bryce Dallas Howard, I didn't buy it for a fucking second.
I think that she was also hampered by some of the directorial choices made. I'm looking at you, Ice Skates.
Oh, that was a Matthew Vaughnism, though.
I can appreciate you trying something.
Yeah.
But let's all look at this and understand that this is fully ridiculous.
Oh, absolutely ridiculous. But, like, I'm telling you right now, you need to go watch A Long Kiss Goodnight. Yeah. It is a very underrated movie because it came out. It was a Rennie Harlan movie with Gina Davis, and it was like their movie before Cutthroat Island, so it didn't get a lot of love. Great fucking movie, and she is the badass of badass action heroes in that movie. Unbelievably great. That's what pissed me off about this because the Bryce Dallas Howard in the beginning loved it, bought everything about her in the way. Because, she was a fish out of water where she's getting thrown in these scenarios, and you're like, okay, you're not expecting her, you're asking her to do violence, but she's never done violence in her mind, so she doesn't know what the fuck to do.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, and I'm not saying anything about Bryce. I like Bryce Dallas Howard a lot. I think she's great. She wasn't in a physical position where you can really buy some of the shit she was doing. To where... Like the Gina Davis thing, they kept her. I don't know if it was just the time frame wasn't long, but she looked physically like she could. Kind of like the issues I have with Anna Taylor-Joy opposed to Charlize Theron in the Mad Max movie. One, you can totally buy, okay, she has this change of her mind changes. She can absolutely do these physical things to where it's like, I don't buy it.
Yeah.
Because it's like, jumping and spinning and flipping and all that, and it's like I really didn't buy it at all.
Yeah, no,
and it took me out of the experience, especially because I have this love for the movie that they obviously stole everything for in the second half of this movie, where I'm like, I've seen it done 1,000% better, so that throws me off.
Yeah.
So I really was disappointed by the second half of this movie.
I want to like this movie because I want to like Matthew Vaughn movies, but this just there were just a lot of moments where it just didn't do anything for me. I compare this to a movie like Bullet Train. I fucking loved Bullet Train. That was a fun, nonstop spy action thing.
Absolutely.
And just this just never felt like it got there. It always felt like it wanted to be there, but it was like her books. It was always close without being the thing. And
they did overutilize, to me, her seeing Sam Rockwell doing things and envisioning Henry Cavill.
That also confused me at the beginning.
Way too much.
Because this was a line throughout the entire movie where Sam Rockwell becomes Argylle. But
he's John Cena.
We are told very explicitly that she is Argylle.
Yeah, and he's John Cena.
So why does Sam Rockwell have frosted tips by the end of this movie?
But then, at the end, she's not really Argylle.
She's also not Argylle.
Because Henry Cavill actually is fucking Argylle.
That was a weird... don't get that.
And it's part of the Kingsman cinematic universe?
Is that what that was?
You didn't see the end credit scene?
Oh, there was an after credit scene?
Yeah.
No, because Apple said there wasn't one.
No, there's a...
Apple started auto-playing something entirely different.
It's like, it goes back to the early 90s, and there's the Kingsman bar, and this young guy walks in, and he obviously says the right questions, and they give him a gun, and he goes, "Oh, what's your name, kid?" And he says something, Argylle. and you know it's Henry Cavill's character as a youngster in the Kingsman from the Golden Circle bar.
That makes no fucking sense.
It's like Glass, or it's like not Glass. What's the first one with McAvoy?
Split.
Where it's like, you didn't need to connect this to Unbreakable, but they did at the end. And
that still worked. That still worked.
Oh,
as
no,
like
it
a
worked.
1-to-1. This does. I haven't seen the scene, so I got to go back and check, and maybe I'll do something afterwards.
It makes the scene at the end in the book signing make more sense.
That's great, but there were already issues because I had this come up for me anyway. When I'm watching the movie, you have the double cross and then the double cross. Oh, God. And spoiler alert, there's a double cross. And I was just like, okay, but why would they need to brainwash you if you were always on their side?
Yes, I agree.
And just the entire time they're like, oh no, she's one of the bad guys now. And I'm like, but why would they have to brainwash you if you were always on their side? I just don't understand it.
Yeah.
And so just like there just seemed to be a lot of kind of muddling at times in terms of how the story was and how the action was. Ariana DeBose is, I love her. I don't know why she was used this way in this movie. And also, it was the most obvious call ahead anybody could have ever seen. You know immediately that when she's like, oh, I had this idea for a thing in the book and I was going to bring this character back and it was sent in by a fan. You know what's going to happen. You know what's going to happen. And of course, at the end of the movie, it does. This entire movie is Chekhov's guns. Mm-hmm. I got in a skating accident and then I became a best-selling author. Oh, I wonder if something to do with the skating accident had anything to do with this. The guy has an escape plan through the roof, but the boat is still there. Oh, I wonder if something happened to the hacker that he couldn't use his escape plan. And like just the entire time, it's just like almost called shots. They even have a Chekhov's gun on the wall where you're just waiting for Bryan Cranston to take Clementine off the wall and use it. Like the whole way through. And it's like, I'm not sure if this is tongue in cheek, if this is purposeful, if this is just kind of some lazy writing and directing. There's also a lot of CGI that I thought wasn't
some of the CGI was pretty bad.
And just a lot of like moments with Apple products that I was just like, okay, yeah, all right. Every time you got to drop FaceTime, it can't just be that you're calling your parents, you're FaceTiming your parents. And I was just like, I know Sony does the exact same fucking thing, but you know,
it still wasn't as bad as that Ghosted, where they had 5 references in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah. No, but like that's kind of how I felt, is that they're just like, if people complain in the Amazing Spider-Man series that there's too many Sony products, don't watch an Apple movie because the entire fucking thing is products. And just like, I didn't hate this movie. I kind of nothing this movie.
Yeah.
I think this movie's like a B- C+. It's not a bad movie. But it's nothing. There's nothing to it. I won't remember it in a few days. I won't care about it in a few days. I love Sam Rockwell. I love Bryce Dallas Howard. I love the way that they are portrayed in this movie and the choices that they make. Of course she has some kind of, deep-seated activation code that makes her go into Terminator mode. Because of course. And it's just like all the way through, it's just that over and over and over again, where it's like, of course that's what it is. Yeah. Oh, we haven't seen her dad? I wonder if her dad is going to be somebody we don't expect.
Yeah.
Just the whole way through, you're just like, you might as well be telling me what you're doing because it's so patently obvious what you're doing. It's not a bad movie, but it's a movie you've seen a dozen times in a dozen other forms. And apparently in a very direct form back in the 90s.
Yep. So for me, I gave this, how do I say it nicely? I gave this movie a B for the first half. As soon as she gets her, turns back into a spy, when they go and he dresses like Argylle and from her
made
blood.
Me so crazy. It made
with
no
the flat
sense
top
to me.
And everything.
With the high and tight? Like, what is happening here?
From there on out, I give this movie a hard F.
And
the second half was so bad.
It almost seems like Matthew Vaughn was like, okay, this is such a turkey, let's just turn everything up to 11.
Yeah.
Where even the smoke-filled hallway fight scene, none of that happens. They show us that all of those shots of them dancing, not a thing.
Yeah.
Because they're not in that position when we see from Bryan Cranston's perspective what's happening. So that's fully made up.
Yep.
The whole thing with the tiny, tiny hole in the heart, Like that whole thing, like all of it just got so ridiculous after a while.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of Guy Ritchie's Man from U.N.C.L.E., where like there's one scene, another Henry Cavill movie.
Another Henry Cavill.
There's one scene where Henry Cavill has a meeting with the spy director, and they're in some memorial, and they're walking around. There's a ton of people in there, and it's the end of Glass, where at the end of the scene, all the people get up and walk out because it turns out they've all been part of the same spy organization. Then why are you all fucking there?
No, I agree. It isn't like you said, you want to like the movie because I like the people in it, and I love Sam Rockwell, I love Bryan Cranston. Even
Sam Jackson seemed like he was having the time of his life.
He was barely in. I thought he did it more. Same with Catherine O'Hara. She was like chewing up the scene as was she British?
She was at one point. She wasn't, and then she was.
And then she was.
At some point, she seemed German. If I'm being honest,
I couldn't quite understand her accent. So
yeah. But it kind of faded in and out at times.
There was, it did end up becoming, just because it's filled with people I like, I can't like it still.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I want to, but I can't because it really, not only did it blatantly steal from other movies, but it just wasn't good.
Yeah, it just wasn't anything special. Like, that's the thing, is that if you're going to steal from other movies, like, I you know, you saying that this was comparable to the Joker, the more I'm looking at it, and with that knowledge, I can definitely see it, where it is just like it's practically the same movie, just with a new skin on it. Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, that's fine, but like, we get into that whole argument of remakes and the merit of a remake. Mm-hmm. And if it's a secret remake that nobody knows is a remake and nobody says is a remake, isn't it still a remake? Mm-hmm. And you just, you know, it's that derivative nature of like, okay, then I'll just watch King of Comedy and Taxi Driver. If I want to watch those movies, I'll just watch those movies. I don't need your fan film where it's somewhere between a fan fiction and a student film where the Joker is Travis Bickle. You know, like, that doesn't mean anything to me. I don't care, dude. That's nothing. That's the height of nothing. You haven't brought anything interesting or dynamic to the situation. You just took somebody else's hard work and you jumped on back of it. And I don't hate this movie. I don't even dislike this movie. I just kind of nothing this movie. It's fine. It's cromulent. It's a perfectly cromulent movie. There's nothing offensive. There's nothing bad. There's not a lot of blood, like usual with Matthew Vaughn movies where there's a lot of blood and violence. It's very dry for a Matthew Vaughn movie. Has a lot of Apple products, so I know Apple fans will like it for that. But it's not even the music's interesting. There's really nothing dynamic about this movie.
That's where the only thing, and only reason I say this is because I had downloaded. I want to get the exact, because I know it's not just Boy George. Dua Lipa also a while ago. No, it's Electric Energy. So it's Ariana DeBose, Boy George, and Nile Rodgers. It's the song that's playing when they're in the apartment of the hacker and Sam Rockwell's beating up people. I love that fucking song, and I did like half of the songs because they had that upbeat kind of disco kind of feel to them.
See,
but then the second half, they weren't.
This is the thing. This is, again, there's two things that I almost forgot to mention. I can't believe I almost forgot to mention. The first is that apparently in this world, now and then, a deleted Beatles song that never made any albums but was released in 2022 was apparently released.
I forgot about that.
Way back in the 60s.
I fucking forgot about that.
Because it's been their song, and she's had amnesia for 5 years. Yep. So, like, apparently this has just been a song that's been around in this universe. So that threw me off, like, hard. I was like, the most famous deleted Beatles song of all time? This is the song that you're going to choose as their romantic song?
Yeah.
Interesting. And in that same way, how many CGI cats? I don't even know if there was a real cat. Dude. They have a cat credited. I don't know how many scenes that cat actually did, because there's the scene where it scratches Sam Rockwell while he's going through the cipher. Yeah. That's a CGI cat.
Yeah.
What was the point of having a real cat if there's a CGI cat in almost every sequence? Like when they throw the cat off the building. Fine, of course you're going to CGI that cat. Why is, when you have just a cat doing normal cat things, why is it a CGI cat?
I know, when you can look at the Marvels and say, well, at least those cats were real cats most of the time, and you can compared to this, you're like, that's a low bar, dude.
What's going on?
That is a low bar.
And so that just these kind of decisions where I'm just like, I don't understand. There must be a production reason why you did this, why you copied this other movie, why you made these character choices, why you only have a CGI cat, why you chose this Beatles song. How many of those reasons are Apple coming in and saying we want to try something?
Yeah.
Which, like, again, I'm a Apple attacker. Right, I'm not going to sit here and defend Apple. That's my mom's job.
Yeah.
I just look at this and I wonder, because I've seen studio interference in so many things. Thank you, Sony. I know the smell. And this has a lot of that studio interference smell to it. Of like, well, this isn't quite right, so let's tinker with it. And let's try this, and let's do this, and let's change this, and let's work on this. And it's just like, is this going anywhere?
Yeah, no.
And ultimately, none of it goes anywhere.
That's the problem with these streaming services. And that's kind of the positive I give Netflix sometimes, is it seems like they kind of are more hands-off on the shit.
I don't know. There was a trailer for a Woody Woodpecker movie that looks atrocious.
Well, I'm never going to watch that.
Atrocious.
But like, we look at the animated stuff that we love. There's no way anyone had... Like, there's no way Castlevania was made with any executive watching that fucking thing.
Or Arcane.
Yeah.
You know, these shows that become so iconic to their...
But like, you look at Amazon.
Yeah.
You have Fallout and Vox Machina. There's... Obviously, I don't think there's any interference in those, but then you look at the Lord of the Rings show and you're like...
There seems like there's so much.
There had to be, like, there's got to be some people like, oh, you need to tie this and this and this.
It needs to do this and it needs to do this. And so I just wonder, like so many things these days, what the production of it was. I don't hate this movie. I just nothing this movie. I literally, like, it's fine. Yeah. It's perfectly cromulent. It's not even bad enough to hate. I can't even say that I hate it, because it's not worth it. There's nothing to it to hate.
I think the problem with them connecting it to the Kingsman universe, though, is now I'm like, this is
technically the fourth Kingsman movie.
And it's technically the worst out of the four.
Yeah.
And it's like, the second one I wasn't a massive fan of, but I love the first one and I love Kingsman.
Yeah.
But it's like, this one is the worst of the four. So it's like, why would you connect it? Because now I'm going to compare it to those other three because it's in the universe.
Well, and especially when those other three are hard R movies.
Hard R and original.
And so you have I'm not looking at all of Matthew Vaughn's movies and being like, nothing ridiculous ever happens. Kick-Ass has a literal jetpack with two miniguns on it. Pedro Pascal cuts a man in half with an electric lasso.
Yeah.
You know, like, there's dumb fucking shit. There's an entire joke just about the word anus in Kingsman, where the cell that she's in translates to anus. And it's like, all these stupid things, right? Matthew Vaughn does stupid shit all the fucking time. Here, it just, like, it felt almost comical. It felt almost like, how silly can I get? Yeah. Where it's like the scene with the colored smoke I did like, but then it's revealed to me nothing. And you're like, okay, that's an interesting choice. The whole whirly bird thing that keeps coming back, I was like, okay, this is interesting.
That was dumb.
This doesn't mean anything to me, but like, you have an entire room of people doing it at one point.
Because like, it's a cliche, sexist, sexy thing in the beginning, and then it's just awkward.
Well, then you have
second time.
Then you just have Sam Rockwell's crotch and Bryce Dallas Howard's face
all the way around. You mean?
Yeah, at the end.
Right, Bryce Dallas. Oh, yeah.
She does the lift,
right.
which is the big moment, that's right. And that's fine. But that's all I could think about was that his crotch is right in her face.
Because like in the beginning, you can see that as okay, this is like a James Bond cliche thing.
Yeah.
But then when it happens with them, it's like, no.
It almost becomes a joke by the end.
It was a joke.
It almost was like, even Sam Rockwell sitting there cheering for the Lakers.
Yeah.
In his little bunker. Almost all of it became a joke. But like, it wasn't played for jokes in the beginning, but by the end it becomes so ridiculous. You're like, is this a joke? Is this tongue in cheek? Is this supposed to be serious? I honestly can't tell.
And it's like, once again, I hate, this is going to sound bad, but it's not. You can buy Henry Cavill picking up Dua Lipa and doing that.
Yeah.
You cannot buy Sam Rockwell picking up because she was a little bigger than him. And it's like, he's not a big dude. I know you're making him out to be strong, but to actually lift a person and do that. I don't know.
Sam Rockwell is an incredibly talented dancer.
He is, but
I would believe that he could do that.
Physically, because it didn't make it look like it was a strenuous thing. I think that was the problem. Mm-hmm. Because to physically pick somebody up and do that, and that's what kind of made it, like, that's what in the beginning, when you know it's like a joke where she's reading a book and it's a fictional thing, made it not seem as goofy. Mm-hmm. Where this is like, this isn't factual. This is like real life People don't do that shit in real life unless they are highly trained, incredibly strong. Because like even professional dancers have to be insanely fit to be able to pull off something like that. So it makes it, like you said, into a joke.
Yeah.
Which it shouldn't be a joke because her character, to me, wasn't a joke until they made the transition.
Well, and it was weird because if you think about it, when the first time we see the Whirlybird, it's part of a fake universe that's real.
Yes.
The second time we see it as part of a very soon after when we see Dua Lipa get the codes, and there's just a room of people doing the Whirlybird, and you're like, whatever, it's a callback. The third time, we do actually see it, and it's Sam Rockwell lifting up Bryce Dallas Howard. The fourth time, we see it, but it's revealed to be fake.
Yes.
So you're just like,
And the wire work on the Bryce Dallas Howard, the one where he lifts her, is so blatantly obvious. Like the transition of him picking her up was... It looked like the old Jet Li movies from the 90s, the One or whatnot, where he would do all the wire work. It was so obvious that it was a wire pull that I was like, that was... And I know that just goes to special effects, but I was like, dude.
Yeah.
Well, like you said, it's a scene that's supposed to be them showing them kind of rekindling their romance.
Yeah.
And you turn it into a goofy
It becomes
thing.
a joke.
And it's not a joke.
And it's like it was a cool scene. It gets ridiculous. And then it tries to play it off like it was still a cool scene.
Yes.
And it's like, no, you made a distinct choice to be ridiculous. And that's fine, but now you got to stick with it. You can't now back off and be like, no, I take it back. This is serious.
Yeah.
And then they immediately go into ridiculous.
And then they're about to kiss, and the guy's like, oh, no, affection. Like, and it's like, he just had his crotch in his face.
Yeah, that wasn't a problem.
That was okay.
That was fine.
But they go to kiss on the cheek, and they're like, no.
It's fine.
What the fuck is going on here?
It's just, all of it just comes down to things like, they have this whole scene where all this crude oil is leaked all over the floor.
Such a CGI.
And you know that it's just going to be slipping people. And then it becomes an ice skating scene. And the entire time the characters are like, why is there all this crude oil in here? Why is there all this crude oil in here? We don't find out. Yeah. It's never said. They make a big stink about it. A lot of characters ask, why is there so much oil in here? They never say.
No, but you can kind of... You can guess it because they're on an oil tanker, really.
Yeah.
But they, like you said, they don't spell it out.
They don't say anything. And when we get to the end of the movie, I thought they were on like some kind of battleship or something. I didn't realize it was supposed to be an oil tanker specifically.
Yeah.
Like I just saw it was a big boat. It could be a shipping container.
And the thing that pissed me off, though, is ice works different than oil.
Yeah.
Like, she didn't need to put shit on her feet.
No.
She could have skated just barefoot.
It just becomes silly.
It was dumb. It didn't make sense to me.
And I get that that's what Matthew Vaughn does, right? We were just talking about Kick-Ass and his 2 miniguns. Like, at some point, it becomes ridiculous. But they try and play it off almost serious at times.
Yeah, and it just...
I don't know. It was one of those things where I'm sitting there and I'm like, I want to give this to you so badly because you've shown us that this is how you approach action sequences. You know, Pedro Pascal is killed at the end of Kingsman by going into a meat grinder. Like, we get it. You do silly things. That's kind of your whole thing. This just like, it went so far and then it was like, you know what? We can go even further.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
See, to me, the best part about this movie is it has been a hot minute since I've seen The Long Kiss Goodnight. And I have not talked about it when we've talked about female action stars. That is one of the best literally kick butt female action stars ever put on film. Gina Davis in that movie. And I highly recommend everyone see it. I just saw it. To buy it on Apple TV is $4.99.
wow.
So I imagine it's got to be the same price like Voodoo and all that.
Yeah.
It is so good. I mean, it has some cheesy moments because it's an early 90s action movie, but it's so fucking good.
Yeah.
And she is so badass in this movie. I so desperately cannot stress enough. If you get anything from this talk, rent that movie, buy that movie. It's super cheap.
It's
it is
better
so
to watch
worth
that
it.
movie than to watch Argylle.
Oh, it's so and when you see it, you're gonna be like, holy fuck.
Yeah.
They so tore that movie. I mean, the fucking wig itself. It's
Yeah.
a short wig when she gets her memory back.
I just will never get over, like, she is told she's Argylle in no uncertain terms. Where
But
her
she's
name
not!
is Argylle. And then she puts on the Dua Lipa dress and wig.
Yes.
And she wears that for the rest of the movie while Sam Rockwell is dressed as Argylle.
Yes.
And then at the end of the movie, the actual Argylle shows up. And
Yes!
I don't fucking get this.
I don't know who's Argylle.
This would have made more sense if Henry Cavill showed up and was like, I was just cast in the movie. And like, that would have been funny and weird. This just makes no fucking sense. You're just left being like, what the fuck? Did anything you tell me, was any of that real? Or was it all lies?
What this seemed like it was a setup for, hey, we want to make a new Kingsman movie with Henry Cavill as the King. There you go. That's what this ended up becoming.
Well, I got great news for you. Guy Ritchie has already made that movie, and it comes out later this year.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like, fuck, man. I can't wait for you to see a post-credit scene, because you're going to be like, okay.
What the fuck is this shit?
It's like, why connect it?
Yeah. Doesn't make any sense.
Have it be its own thing.
Fully unnecessary.
It has obviously not a single connection throughout, including the fact that the bad guy from the first fucking Kingsman movie is one of the good guy heroes in this, Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
What the hell?
What the fuck?
Yeah. No, it doesn't make any fucking sense. And Sofia Boutella, who was his right-hand person, is also another person in this universe.
Is
the Keeper of Secrets.
Keeper of Secrets. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
What the hell, guys?
Why are you connecting it?
This seems like they just threw darts at a board and they were like, I guess we gotta do it. That's what the darts say. And it's just, it makes no fucking sense.
I got an aneurysm now thinking about this fucking movie.
It's fine. It's a nothing burger, and then they make some categorically stupid choices.
It's like, what's his name? Tyler Egger, who played Eggy.
Taron Egerton.
Taron Egerton. Why didn't they just have him be a waiter in the scene? Just so you're like, oh, it's Eggy. He's connected.
Have Colin Firth show up, or Jeff Bridges.
Yes.
As the head of the Whiskey Men, or whatever it was.
What's his face, too? Channing Tatum,
yeah.
And then fucking Halle Berry, too. It's like, dude, just throw them all in there.
Just have them all.
Yeah,
they're all still around.
Merlin died, but have him fucking show up, too.
This could take place at a time where Merlin hasn't died yet. This is somewhere in between the two movies.
We gotta stop, because I'm this grade is dropping precipitously every time. All right, so this has been a very long, but I think a very entertaining NerdPod Generation episode 135. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go back and listen to our back catalog. I have to say this. It's still in progress. But
the website is coming along.
The website is actually active.
Oh.
But it's like, there should be a thing. I should put a banner saying work in progress, because as I'm building it, I had to link the website to it, because then I had to go to domain.com and alter some of the IP to fit with GoDaddy so it would actually run.
Oh.
And I did that. I don't know how I did that shit, because I'm terrible with computers, but I was able to work it. So now you can go to nerdpodgen.com and see the early stages of our website. The one positive I guess you could say from it is the main screen of our website has our logo. It has a link that you can click that takes you to Spotify. And it also has the link to YouTube, where you click it, it takes us to our YouTube channel.
Excellent.
So if you go to nerdpodgen.com, you at least can access our content directly from that.
And that's what's most important.
Yes. But like, I have separate pages for each of us that we'll be able to put up stuff about us individually.
Put up blurbs.
And then, the page for contacting us is also live.
Excellent.
I think I have to create an email address that we can get our stuff emailed to us.
Yeah, where we both have access to it. Yeah.
So I'll have to set that up. But like, at least if you go to nerdpodgen.com, you see our logo, and you can click on those two links and get to our content. So that's the important thing.
That's great.
Yeah, that's the important
thing. And that important, brilliant logo was made by Kortney Howell.
It's so good.
Theme is by Brendan Williams and James Connelly. And until next week.
Dude, I'm gonna need to take a nap now.
I know, right? It's exhausting,
this is
man.
A great show.
This is hard lifting, man.
This is really hard lifting.
Until next week, we'll have more Fallout and maybe some more fun. But until then, friends and enemies, have a great one.